Okay, gents, let's now switch gears and focus on the Americans. USMNT roster has been dropped. Let's focus on our big takeaways as Gregg Berhalter named that 26-man squad for the friendlies against Japan in Germany and Saudi Arabia and Spain. Who are the big winners? Who are the big losers from this? And the big headlines, really, Nick, because I think this is huge. This is the final camp before the World Cup, the final two friendlies, final chance to impress for these players and this squad. Most of the squad are probably locks, but there are still some really interesting storylines to come out of this. So what were the most interesting takeaways for you from this roster being announced?
I don't want to cheat this question by saying this, but my biggest takeaway was how nervy I felt. And not normal, like World Cup, this is coming up and this is my favorite thing and we only get maybe 15 of these in our lifetime that we can really pay attention to. No, it was all of a sudden wondering what's going on and the mashup of storylines. And when Gregg Berhalter was hired as coach of this team, it felt like we were getting a system. And that was what was sold to us, is these are the pieces. This is what he's going to do. It's going to take some time, but he's building into it. And now all of a sudden I look at this, and maybe I'm just way off and overreacting, and I hope I am, but I look at this and I feel like maybe he's getting cold feet about his decisions. Remember, this is his World Cup too. And I know the one we're going to talk about for sure will be Jordan Pefok, but man, I'm really, really nervous about what he's about to do at center forward and at center back.
Yeah, I mean, those are kind of the big areas that are still undecided, right, Andy, when you look through this roster. And let's move on to Pefok and talking about, that was the big talking point, I think, up front, the fact that Jordan Pefok has been playing excellently for Union Berlin. They are top of the Bundesliga, didn't get called up, had a small injury, but Gregg Berhalter has explained and said, you know what, we know what Jordan can do. We've seen him, and we know his capabilities. Didn't say much more than that. Haji Wright was not called up, but Ricardo Pepi and Josh Sargent are back in after decent starts, at least for Sargent in the championship, banging in goals for fun for Norwich. And Pepe's gone on loan to Groningen in the Eredivisie and had a good debut, got an assist, and is doing okay. But what do we make of that situation up top? Because I feel like we speak about it every single time we've spoken about the US for the last 2 to 3 years. Where is the number 9 here? Are they going to play a number 9? What is the situation? It's almost at the moment, it's difficult to understand what is going through Gregg Berhalter's mind when it comes to Jordan Pefok, a player in the form he's in one of the best leagues in Europe, clearly has moved there because he wants to show he can do it on an even bigger stage, and he's done that. So it's weird to not reward him for that early in the season and then in this final camp before the World Cup.
Yeah, I hate that answer so much from Gregg Berhalter. We know what he is. We know what he can do. We know what Christian Pulisic can do. We know what Tyler Adams can do. We know what Gio Reyna can do. And yet they're all in this camp. Like, that is not a reason to leave someone out especially at a position where you've got no designated starter. You have no idea what the plan is going to be for the World Cup, which is coming up in about 2.5 months. He is the best and most informed forward at this point for the U.S. men's national team, and he is not in the camp. I simply don't understand it. There's no logical explanation aside from he wouldn't be able to play, and so we're not going to call him in because he's got a little bit of a knock right now, and so we're going to let him fully recover from that. I could almost understand that if the first game wasn't being played in Germany, where Jordan Pefok currently resides. Like, there is just no reason for Jordan Pefok to not be in this camp for the U.S. men's national team, because there is every possibility. And we were having a little bit of a conversation before the show about Gregg Berhalter kind of going back and forth on saying one thing, then doing another, doing one thing, saying another. It feels like Jordan Pefok, after all of this, is going to start game 1 of the World Cup, and Gregg Berhalter, or I guess we will be looking at Gregg Berhalter and saying, man, sure would have been nice if he would have had a game or two leading right up to the World Cup to get in there with the likes of Pulisic, Reyna, whoever it's going to be, Aronson, Yunus Musa, because I doubt he's had, I've not looked it up, but I know for a fact that he's not had a ton of minutes with all 3 of those on the field. So it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, Nick, the explanation is we know what he can do. He was in consideration, but we called up other guys to have a closer look at them. Do you have that luxury as the US national team coach with just 2 more games ahead of the World Cup? And yes, camps and training. And he seems to suggest that Pefok is very much still in his thinking and ideas for the World Cup, like Andy mentioned there. So what do you think about Pefok in particular? And also what do you think about the striker core? Because Sargent and Pepe, this is huge for them.
It is. Listen, if we're playing Berhalter bingo, I'm about to award basically the free space by mentioning John Brooks's name, but it's the same rationale when he mentions not playing him, which I understand. But it's always, we got to see him in a system. It's like, no, just say you don't like him. Like, find a way to say he's not in your plans politely, because you're not going to call him up. Here's the thing that drives me absolutely nuts. We remember when Ricardo Pepi broke onto the scene. I'm not saying he's bad by any means, but he broke onto the scene with a goal and 2 assists against Honduras and then 2 goals against Jamaica. And since then, he has an assist in like 7 appearances. Jesus Ferreira is scoring goals for fun. I have no problem with him being there. Jordan Pefok's had 30 minutes since September of 2021. He has not been in the squad. He's played 30 minutes in 1 qualifier away to Mexico. Saying you know who he is so disingenuous. And it's the thing that bothers me most about Berhalter is a lot of times he seems to give you those answers that are a little bit like, I know more than you and you should just accept that. And take all the information you've been given and you've seen with your eyes and discard it. Because Jordan Pefok didn't get called up while he was scoring goals for young boys in the Champions League. It feels like he missed one chance. I don't remember if it was against El Salvador or Canada, and then that was it for him.
Yeah. I mean, Andy, when we look at those explanations, I mean, he gave an explanation about Tim Ream and said, look, he's just not the profile of centre-back that we want. He's not aggressive enough. We're going after somebody else. That's why he's not in this squad. So could he not have just given the kind of answer about that to Jordan Pefok, or does that just mean he's so unsure about the other centre-forward options that he has that he doesn't want to kind of play that card, right? He's keeping all his options open, and that's a bit worrying for the US just, 2 months until the World Cup kicks off in Qatar.
Consistency and logic, I think, is really the only thing that we're asking for here, right? Like, we're not asking for the world to go back to something that Nick said at the beginning about having the luxury of not bringing in a player like Pefok into the final camp before the World Cup. As the U.S. men's national team manager, you don't have the luxury to not bring in a player who's in that kind of form at center forward ever. We don't have center forwards that get into hot goal scoring form, hardly, if ever. And if they do, it tends to be an MLS. And so you've got a guy in the, again, not to belabor the point on Jordan Pefok there, but I think I'm almost certain Tim Ream, Jordan Pefok are both going to be on the World Cup roster, right? Like, there is almost no conceivable way that both of these players, if you say, what are the best 26 players? Situationally, there are moments for both of those players. You know, the contrast, I think, between an Aaron Long and a Tim Ream, who, you know, 2 very, very different players. I think there are situations in a World Cup, in a group stage, especially on a short schedule, that you're going to need very different types of players. And so I don't understand putting guys out and pushing them away from the core of the group, making them feel like really that they're not involved in the group, that they're not part of the plans right before the World Cup, when you might just here in a couple of weeks or a couple months have to turn straight back to them.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how much they're integrated and maybe into meetings, even if they're not there in person, how involved some of these players on the fringes or have been left out for other reasons are made to feel. So let's wait and see that. Nick, for players who maybe are looking at last chance saloon situation, their final chance. I mean, Joe Scally, Sam Vines. I mean, there's an option there at left back with Anthony Robinson, obviously being out injured for this camp. I mean, those two, it seems like this is a real big final chance for them to stake their claim to be on the roster for Qatar. And also Sargent and Pepe, right? We said that this is their big opportunity, one of those guys to step up and at least be in the squad. And I'm maybe looking elsewhere at Malik Tillman, maybe Horvath, to maybe not claim his starting spot, but nail down that third choice goalkeeper spot. With the situation with Zach Steffen as well, I just want to update everyone on that. He's injured for this, hasn't played for Middlesbrough on loan from Man City for the last 4 games of an injury, but then the goalkeeper's replaced him, has played pretty well. And Chris Wilder has had some interesting things to say. You know, there's going to be competition. Zach's a quality goalkeeper. But it seems like it may not be that he's going to play every single game at Middlesbrough now, that he's had this injury and has been out of the team. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. But Nick, your thoughts on this last chance saloon situation and any players that really need to take this opportunity against Japan and Saudi Arabia in these 2 friendlies?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a little bit of house money because I do want to start at the goalkeeper situation. We can all agree that Matt Turner is going to go to the World Cup unless he's injured. I think Matt Turner can become the starter by the end of this window. Japan and Saudi Arabia, they can attack. I mean, it's kind of thing if you've been paying attention to Asian World Cup qualifying. Saudi's played fairly well in getting there. And these are two World Cup opponents, the sort of opponents you're going to get that aren't terribly different, if I'm honest, not terribly different from Iran. And Wales isn't a gigantic step up with the exception of maybe having a Gareth Bale there. So I think Matt Turner can literally say, I'm the starting goalkeeper with good performances here. The other thing I really look to is who looks out of place, quote unquote, at center back. The Pepe and Sargent thing is very interesting, but I feel like that dynamic, I don't mean to gloss it over because it's a good conversation, but I think it's as straightforward. Are they going to capitalize on the chances they get? It's not more complicated than that. At center back, now that Berhalter's given us sort of these guidelines about why he doesn't like Tim Ream, then we better see those things out of Cameron Carter-Vickers and Aaron Long. Walker Zimmerman, I think, fits the bill. And Chris Richards, I'll be looking at an awful lot. So I know you're looking at guys the question was more, who's going to make the roster? Yeah. But for me, I'm thinking about that starting 11, and we're sitting here 2 months away and we don't have that settled. I think there are still 1, 2, 3 positions up for grabs right now for a starting spot at a World Cup. And that's all I can focus on.
Yeah, I think, Andy, when we look at it as well, when you look at Gio Reyna coming back recently, and then, Sergino Dest is back in the squad, that's great to see. We're going to get pretty close to the USMNT starting lineup, right? Apart from maybe the goalkeeper situation or Anthony Robinson. And also, so that's quite exciting, I think, to look and see where this squad is at in these 2 friendly games. Is there anything else for you? Any other concerns or any other positions? Because centre-back, that's a great point that Nick brought up there. Who is going to play basically alongside Walker Zimmerman, right? This is a straight audition between Chris Richards, Carter Vickers, and an Aaron Long. And then, like you said, maybe you think Tim Ream might come into the squad at least for the World Cup. But there's a lot of midfield sorted. Number 9, we need to figure out who's going to play there. And then centre-back and starting goalkeeper still up in the air a bit. So there's still some positions there to get figured out. But this is going to be very, very close to the starting lineup. At least it should be, in my opinion, from what we're going to see from Gregg Berhalter, right? When the team is lined up for these games against Japan and Saudi Arabia, you would think this is very, very close to the starting lineup for the World Cup.
You would think, but how can we know? Like we have just spent about 10 minutes kind of talking through Berhalter's logic and the things that he says and the things that he does, and they don't always seem to really match up. And so you would think so. I'm a little disappointed with kind of the continued injury status of Tim Weah. I feel like he's a really, really important player for this team at the World Cup, not just what he brings on the field, but I think he is one of those guys that kind of in the locker room and off of the field brings everyone together into kind of a collective unit. And so I feel like he's really, really important to have there. So hopefully he can get back soon. But to me, I'm excited to see Brenden Aaronson, what he has done at Leeds, and can he carry that over straight into U.S. men's national team camp? And maybe, who knows, we might come out of this international window and say, Brenden Aaronson's the best player on the U.S. men's national team. He is the head, the spearhead of this attack. And Christian Pulisic is, contribute where you can.
It's going to be interesting, right? Finding positions for these guys. We talked about it. False 9, number 10, out on the left. How are you going to fit all those great attacking players into the team? So I'm really looking forward to seeing that now that they're all healthy and fit and playing hopefully in the same team together, because that hasn't happened a lot. So that's going to be very valuable. What also is going to be valuable is we are going to be doing a live show after the Japan friendly. That's coming up, obviously, on Friday, September the 23rd. That's the first time we'll get to see all these players together in this window. We'll be doing a live Q&A after that game. So head over to the NBC Sports YouTube channel. You can see it below us there. And we'll have you covered with all the questions, analysis, and thoughts after that game, which is being played in Germany. Going to be really intrigued to see how these US players all fit together and slot together against a very, very good Japan side. So, yeah, we'll have some fun with that, right, gents? And keep things rolling with this USMNT coverage over at PST.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. For even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you over there.